everybody, welcome back to Dubious Knowledge. It is, I was going to say your GM. It is your one of your hosts, Jason. And this week we are joined by Cori. How's it going?
As well as can be expected.
Yeah. No Mike this week. Mike has some personal stuff going on, as well as some professional stuff going on. There's a lot of change in his life, so unfortunately he was unable to join us. But we do hope to get him back in time for next month, which by the time you listen to next month's, it'll be 2024. But just in time for the holiday season, we are joined by none other than David from the MNmaxed podcast. Ho, ho, ho. How are you, sir?
I am well. How are you?
I am doing very well. We are also joined by the individual to whom we are going to be talking about. The Prince of Darkness, Asmodeus, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yes. Hello, friends. It is a pleasure to meet you here today. And thank you so much for returning those contracts to me. Merely a formality, I assure you. I am, as you say, the Prince of Darkness. I am older than the eons. I am the most ancient and powerful and terrible of all beings in the multiverse. I wrote the laws which govern the universes. I crafted the very concept of intelligence with my own hands. And all free will exists purely at my vast mercy. I have held countless names over countless universes. In your world, they call me the First Lord of Hell, Prince of Darkness, Archfiend, and more. But you, my dear friends, they call me Asmodeus.
Bravo, sir.
Yes, thank you. Yes. All you know exists purely because of me. You are, indeed, well.
13 titles. 13 titles this Dave has.
You kind of stole some of my thunder there, Azzy. Because when I think
belongs to Asmodeus, more.
Because usually I will name the deity and then list off all of their titles, and I was gonna go, all right, gonna take a deep breath here.
Well, please proceed. There's nothing I enjoy more than hearing them all again.
Asmodeus, the Archfiend, the Dark Prince, the First, the God-Fiend, the King of Hell, the Lord of Darkness, Lord of Hell, Lord of the Pit, Master of Witches, Prince of Darkness, Prince of Devils, Prince of Hell, Prince of Law, and Ruler of Hell.
And those are only the ones you know.
Asmodeus delights in tempting mortals to give in to corruption. He promotes hierarchies where everyone knows their place, and he takes advantage of order for his own selfish benefits.
But that's so harsh when you say it that way. Order benefits the strong, but I am the strongest.
His edicts are to negotiate contracts to your best advantage, to rule tyrannically and torture weaker beings, and to show subservience to your betters. His anathema, as of the Player Core remaster on November 15th, which will have released by the time you all listen to this, are to break a contract, to share power with the weak, and to insult Asmodeus by showing mercy to your enemies.
No mercy. I quite enjoy that one.
His areas of concern are contracts, pride, obviously, tyranny, and oppression.
My cat keeps trying to step in front of my camera. No mercy for you, Samson. No mercy.
In terms of sanctification, since alignment is no longer a thing, if you worship Asmodeus and want to sanctify, you must sanctify unholy. He does not allow holy and does not allow wishy-washiness in choosing not to sanctify. First edition domains were evil, fire, law, magic, and trickery, with subdomains of arcane, ash, deception, devil, divine, legislation, and smoke.
Legislation. I love it.
Second edition domains are confidence, fire, trickery, and tyranny, with alternative domains of duty and glyph. Favored weapon is the mace. His worshippers tend to be oppressors, bureaucrats, tyrants, diabolists, lawyers, and those who seek rulership or discipline.
The people you most need in your weak societies in order to thrive.
Centers of worship, mostly in the Inner Sea, revolve around Cheliax and Cheliax's vassal and neighboring states of Isger and Nidal. Holy symbol is a red pentagram. His realm is Nessus in the deepest layer of hell.
Hold on there. My realm is the entirety of the multiverse. Nessus is just my little place I call home.
And if people will consider all of hell Asmodeus' realm, he just chooses Nessus as the seat of power.
I've got my shelves, my books, everything set up how I like it there.
But yeah,
That's the basics.
Being in the presence of a god can be off-putting. I'm sorry. Not really.
But yeah, those are the basics of Asmodeus. One of the earliest of the Core 20, if you listen to him.
At all should.
Yeah, because it was what? It was Pharasma, and then it's like a debate. What? It's like Desna, then or Asmodeus, or like, I mean, it was Pharasma first, right? And then there's kind of a debate, and then who came next?
I will admit Pharasma brought about the seal, but from there it was myself and my brother, Aegis, existing as pure motes of energy amongst cosmos.
Well,
I murdered you.
that's one creation myth.
It is what my holy text says, and therefore, it is the truth.
It's what the script of Flies says, which is not Asmodeus' holy text.
Am I wrong about that? I am never wrong about it.
But yeah, it's he's an interesting cat. I enjoy Asmodeus, and a lot of that has to do with, I mean, my course of studies for my undergrad. Being history and the history of Catholicism and the Church, and Asmodeus's mythological genesis in Judaism and Christianity and Islam, because, and we'll get into this later, Asmodeus is a figure in each of the three major Abrahamic religions, and it's fascinating to see how much of that still transferred over and can be seen in this depiction of Asmodeus. which, well, I will get into that later. Let's talk about Golarion lore.
Oh, really quickly, I will just say it's been lovely, and I have much more important things to attend to. I shall leave you now with my representative, David. He is a what he'll do. Farewell. Like,
Peace out, Azzy.
Later, Prince.
farewell.
All right, that was fun. Can't keep it up. I don't enjoy doing it. I love doing it, but I don't know enough. I'm going to keep making more mistakes. It's easy to make mistakes. And that's Asmodeus.
Well, and so here's the thing. From my research, the script of Flies exists in a single paragraph of text in Inner Sea God. So I have no idea what the script of Flies actually is.
Well, I was reading campaign setting, Inner Sea Gods. I thought it said he had a different. Well, because there's so many things. What's the Book of the Damned then?
Yeah.
There's the Book of the Damned. Let me crack my knuckles here. The Book of the Damned is one of 3 apocrypha, penned by, I want to say his name is Tabriel, who was an angel sent to chronicle the outer spheres. Let me make sure I have the name right.
You probably do. Holy text. The Archfiend's doctrine is recorded in the Asmodean monograph.
Yes,
Okay.
Tabris, not Tabriel.
Happens.
So Tabris was tasked with chronicling the 9 outer planes. And he started with the 3 lower planes, so the Abyss, Abaddon, and Hell. And that's when he wrote the Book of the Damned.
I see.
And then he wrote, I believe next in the order was writing Chronicle of the Righteous, which was his chronicle of the upper planes. And then Concordance of Rivals, which was the middle planes. The amount of depth he went into in chronicling the lower planes in the Book of the Damned resulted in his exile from heaven, because he chronicled such vile things that they kicked him out.
Well, just knowing the truth. I mean, you can't have that in heaven. Come down to hell, where the truth is allowed to.
And what's fascinating too here, it says here in the text that that the Book of the Damned corroborates Asmodeus's scripture in the Asmodean monograph, that he actually is one of the oldest beings in the multiverse, having existed in time before time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, as he told me that he had a contract with Tablets to make sure that the truth was told.
But, so, there's the bit in Script of Flies, which again, I can't find anywhere else other than one paragraph in Inner Sea Gods, and also one paragraph in the Adventure Path Mother Flies article on Asmodeus, which was mostly repurposed into the Inner Sea Gods article, because that's what they did, is they just basically reprinted all of those. Asmodeus's is one that actually got the most cleanup out of the original Adventure Path ones, alongside Arastel's. Arastel's got cleaned of some of the misogyny that was written in the Kingmaker article. Asmodeus's got rewritten because the original article claimed that he actually has actual paladins. The Inner Sea Gods version clarified that some of his followers call themselves paladins, but they aren't actually paladins.
Just semantic.
But so there's the script of flies, which I need to find more about, because whose holy text is this, if it's not Azzy's?
Sounds like, oh, if I had to guess.
Well, I think this will be a great question for the Paizo Q&A at PaizoCon.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
there you go.
The developer Q&A.
yeah. The
Hey, James Jacobs, we're coming for you. Hey, I know
the
you
Secrets
listen.
of Golarion panel.
Yeah, I know you listen. So get ready.
But there are other histories that conflict a little bit with the Script of Flies one. Book of the Damned in the Windsong Testaments and the Asmodean Monogram, they all do claim that he's one of the first deities of Golarion, of the multiverse. And they do include his brother and equal, Ihis. Together they were known as the First. The Wingsong Testaments claim that he and his brother were two of the first deities born when Pharasma used the seal. There are also accounts that both of them began their days as Imperial Lords, so the highest choir of angels in heaven, and that he discovered hell on his own while he was exploring as a shadow of heaven. There he was greeted by a serpent, and
Always with the serpents.
and learned about the original denizens of hell, which were the Asuras, before devils came into being, and the neighbors on the Shadow Plane, my beloved Velstrax. He in turn shared a lot of heaven's truths and innovations with the Asuras and Velstrax, and then returned to heaven, keeping hell a secret to just himself, which, you know, that's part of that pride thing that we talked about earlier, where, you know, pride is very important to Asmodeus, but can also cause your downfall very quickly.
Excuse me, are you insinuating that Asmodeus has had a downfall? I would contest such a claim.
I would say falling from heaven counts as a downfall. Quite literally.
No, but literally downfalling, literally falling down. But figuratively, philosophically, really just arising to greater power.
Which does kind of fit his whole thing about, you know, leading folks to free will and having this conflict over free will with Sarenrae.
Well, and his brother, from what I understand, didn't he have like a conflict over free will with Ehis, his brother, who wanted free will to exist, and Asmodeus didn't? But Asmodeus killed Ehis, but as tribute, allowed free will to exist.
Yes, that is exactly what happened there. Is the two of them came to a head over whether or not free will should exist. Asmodeus won the conflict but lost the war, essentially, in that he killed his brother, but he relented on the thing that they were fighting over.
And that was because Sarenrae forced him to acknowledge, right?
Yeah.
Forced him to admit the fact that he killed his brother. Yeah.
Sarenrae was Ehis's right hand at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of her rise to power.
To godhood.
You know, and like in a last act of sympathy for his brother, he allowed free will to stand, and then he went to hell and created a monument to the old ways of absolute merciless order, and holds it as a figurehead of what will come back, because that is also a big part of Asmodean lore. Is they all believe he's going to reclaim heaven and take it back.
That's earlier, Jason, you mentioned that you look at things from like a religious historical perspective. The perspective I often take, at least that I study, is like sociology and politics. So obviously, like Asmodeus is fascism, and that is such a thing in fascism. Fascism needs to be able to have like this return to what once was. It always has those elements.
The great old days, yeah.
Yeah, and so that regards Asmodeus, as absolutely representing tenets of fascism.
Yeah, I mean that's a good segue, because that's exactly what he represents. It says here that Asmodeus is the god of rigid hierarchies, imposing systems where every creature knows its place. The strong rule over lesser beings, and the weak are properly subservient to their superiors. That's the system, and that is the quote-unquote good old ways that he wants to return. That is the order, the lawful order that he wants to see put in place. That is what Cheliax is striving for. The nation state that worships and follows his doctrine. That is what he wants to bring back to heaven. That is how he regiments hell. That is how his church is regimented. Is this entirety, this hierarchical society where you have this system in place where the strong rule over the weak.
In so much as their power allows them to, like, one of the things I always think about with, well, that's a silly way to say it, but are they really the strongest? Of course, Asmodeus is the strongest and most powerful. That's not I am contractually obligated to say this. But, yeah, are the leaders of Cheliax really the most powerful? Maybe they are. Maybe they are with the help of Asmodeus. But, it's those contracts. It's you gain the power.
Oh, no. Oh, sorry. Something stuck in my throat. No.
Exactly. Say sometimes it's the illusion of power. Sometimes it's just how things have been set up to be. The systemic aspects of the society.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And we'll get to that too later, because there's a really interesting passage when we talk about his order of priests and how the cleric and the clergy operate. And there's an interesting passage, and I'll put a pin in that one, and we'll revisit that, because I'll just leave it at that. And it speaks to exactly that point about who really has power and how that operates. But one thing that I do find fascinating, now that we're on this subject, is that Asmodeus himself, he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care to be worshipped. He doesn't want to be worshipped. If people worship him or not, he doesn't give a shit. All he wants is obedience and acknowledgement that his vision of order and hierarchy is both truth and law. That is what he wants.
Yeah.
Whether you worship him or not, he could care less.
Yeah.
He despises mortals. Despises them. Thinks they're weak.
Well, aren't they? compared to the eons that have passed before Asmodeus.
And I mean, the only reason he even gives his clerics any sort of magic is because he sees them as tools to whip the rest of humanity or mortality into shape into his system of hierarchy. That's the only reason he gives his clerics magic.
Yeah. Hey, everybody's got to have a thing.
And it goes back to, we keep covering the lower end of the pantheon in terms of morality, and we keep coming across the same they don't really care aspect. Like,
Right.
we saw it with Zon-Kuthon, we saw it with Urgathoa, we saw it with Lamashtu, we see it with Asmodeus.
We kind of saw it with Cade and Kaylee to an extent.
Are you insinuating that Asmodeus' morality is low? Law and order! What could be more moral?
Well, see, we don't use that 9-point grid anymore. But if I remember right, he sits on the very bottom left-hand corner of that 9-point grid.
And that's one of the things that I like about Asmodeus. Is because I think we're talking game mechanics and not just lore, is that it can be sometimes difficult to play an evil character in a typical campaign. But when you do it and do it right, it can be so much fun. And I have played an Asmodean worshiper in a good campaign. And it's just like, it's just a different morality. It's happy to work with everybody, wants the best. It's just a little bit different morality.
Yeah, it's exactly, because he, for all his faults in seeing in how he despises mortals and how he wants power to rule over the weak, he does have this idea that one's word is a binding contract, that what you say you must do, that what you said you would agree to this and you must do it. So I mean, it's a double-edged sword. It's sort of the the whole idea makes me think of Devil Went Down to Georgia, the Charlie Daniels Band song.
True. And it's certainly, that is where it diverges from real life fascism. They don't do what they say ever.
Right.
It is the ideal of fascism, not what it actually maintains. And I should say, as much as I love to play devil's advocate and speak the good of Asmodeus, that's just a fun game. He's definitely evil. He's definitely one of the bad guys.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say it right now, and I will probably be wrong, but my money is on him to bite it next year during War of Immortals.
No, but he's in Starfinder.
They've already said that is not actually
it's
a thing to hold in mind, because the gap exists for a reason.
Starfinder's like a different multiverse. The gap happened and it's an offshoot branch multiverse.
They kill Asmodeus, I'll be very disappointed. What makes you say that, though?
And they have pointedly said that my reasoning is not why he will die if he does die. My reasoning is that he's tied too closely to the OGL. And I think that the story potential of Asmodeus dying has a lot of juiciness to it for what it will do to Cheliax, for one. But that, that's also an argument against it, because we've already seen what happens when Cheliax loses their deity. They find a new one in Asmodeus.
Yes.
But So I just think there's a lot of story potential there, and that's my number one bet for who's going to bite it.
Interesting. We'll see. I have no, I don't know. I don't have any, what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever. Predictions. I have no predictions myself. I don't know.
I have a couple predictions, but that's for another podcast. So,
But I do think that he is a very interesting deity in that he is the one evil deity that can be reasoned with, right?
Of course he can. Asmodeus has a perfect reputation of bargaining with all the other gods. Asmodeus has worked with almost all other gods. And perfect. Close.
Another spider. Sorry, something in my throat again.
I love that one too. Yeah, we'll share that story too. I love that story. But yeah, I want to touch on that point too that you brought up, David. That one of the things I absolutely love about Asmodeus is that, unlike all the evil deities that we've talked about so far, Lamashtu, Urgathoa, Zon-Kuthon, and I think those are the only three evil ones we've talked about, right? I don't think we've talked about... We will be talking about the most evil of evil ones next month.
Rova.
The one that even Asmodeus was like, fuck no, I'm helping you guys out to put this one away.
Oh, do we have the Great Beast next month? All right.
The rough beast. Rough.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
beyond that, the one thing that I love is that Asmodeus is handsome. He's eloquent. He's patient. He's tactical. He's brilliant.
Jason, I'm writing all these things down. I'm letting Asmodeus know you're saying them, even though we already know. So, you're doing well.
Even though we have these depictions of him as all the depictions that you see are, red-skinned, horned, tailed, with black hair, hooves for feet, like your classic devil.
Bare-chested.
Yeah, bare-chested devil, sharp teeth. Like all of the in-person depictions, the accounts that people have said that the actual appearances that he's made have depicted him as like this really strikingly handsome and eloquent and charming person. But not only that, he can appear as whatever he wants. Like, he can just show up as whatever he wants to look like.
And let's be real. If you saw Tim Curry from that Devil movie, you'd fuck him.
Dude, if I saw Al Pacino from that Devil movie with Keanu Reeves, let's be honest.
I don't even know what that one is.
Devil's Advocate.
Yeah. Devil's Advocate's a great movie.
Oh. I'm thinking the movie Legend, where
Oh yeah.
Tim Curry is just all dressed out, decked out the most devil costume you can possibly imagine.
Right. Yeah. Like that's how art depicts Asmodeus in Golarion. But by all accounts, he shows up more as Al Pacino in Devil's Advocate. Slick, eloquent, charming as hell, handsome as hell. That's how he supposedly actually shows up. And which,
that's why he made me his avatar for today's conversation.
Slick, eloquent, and charming as hell. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's and he uses this to his advantage, and they say that he uses this, which is how he is able to charm and strike deals with the other deities. Even the ones who probably know that they shouldn't strike deals with him, he still manages to do it.
Yeah, I do like how some text I've read has specifically called that out. Even
Even Sir Renray has dealt with him. Borum buys weapons of war from him. There's all sorts of stuff. Basically everybody except like just a few. What was like Aiden hates him, won't deal with him. And then there's a few.
Besmara hates him and won't deal with him.
Yeah, but mostly all the deities have dealt with Asmodeus at one time or
Rovagag
another.
hates him and won't deal with him.
Wow,
Can't deal with him.
you could say that Asmodeus is the key to Rovagug's defeat.
Does he?
Well, maybe.
He might. He might not.
You know this story, right, David?
I only know it because I listened to your Desna podcast, Tyler. You mentioned it. Like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Also,
That other spider stole the key, and we have no idea if she gave back the real one.
yes, I have a note from Asmodeus himself. This is a lie. This is not true. This did not happen. It is a rumor. He will he asks you to kindly desist from repeating such falsehoods, or he will bring you to.
You can bring it.
So yeah, we've talked about about his followers. They're pretty much exactly who you think they are.
Yeah, speaking of which, lawyers.
Yeah. They specifically call out lawyers.
I have
Bureaucrats.
very good friends who are lawyers. They're not all. Well,
As do I. I've got good friends that are public defenders. And wonderful people, those.
I have a good friend who's an estate attorney.
ooh, nice. I have very good friends who are bureaucrats. Have you met Swami? It's also.
Is a CPA considered a bureaucrat?
How could it not be?
I suppose, yeah. I consider him more as a cleric. Because he's doing clerical work.
That's an interesting way to think of somebody as a cleric, but okay.
He's literally doing clerical work.
Also, he does fit another portion of the followers hierarchy because he is a rules lawyer.
Like,
True.
Also,
But,
before it's gone, I just want to point out, I wanted to get in the mood for this, so I've got my lighting set to be like devilly lighting, and I also wanted to make like, what would a drink be that Asmodeus would drink? So I looked at my liquor cabinet and I had Fireball. I thought, yeah, that sounds right. So I went Fireball, Sprite, and Grenadine, and let me tell you, it's delicious and also very red, just like Asmodeus. I think it's the perfect. I'm going to call it the Asmodeus.
Nice.
Also, I know our listeners can't see your backdrop there, David, but the giant poster map of the Inner Sea region.
Oh, it's the big one. It's the one that's like 5 feet tall. I love that.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's the one that was keeping me from getting my book for 7 months. Remember that, Cori?
We ship them together.
Yeah.
I always forget to uncheck that little stupid box. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yes, absolutely.
I always forget to uncheck that stupid fucking box. That's like, we'll ship this with your next shipment when it's all ready to reduce shipments. God damn it, I just want my stuff now. And yeah, so you get something like that that's delayed for months, and then you don't get your books. It's very annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I very pointedly unchecked that box recently when I ordered the entirety of the Wrath of the Righteous adventure card game set.
See, mine's right here. I just need to put it up.
Yeah, they're great. I love that map.
I want to get
I
a
have
nice
that
frame.
somewhere, but
5 foot by 3 foot frame? Good luck.
Yeah. I know. I have a buddy who's a carpenter. I was just a bit like, hey, here's $50. Can you just put this together for me with some scrap wood that you got that matches?
He'll look at you and roll his eyes and be like, I guess.
But yeah, other than that, this part's interesting. Services to Asmodeus require chanting long phrases without error, tolling bells, participating in and receiving public punishments, and other acts of domination or submission, reinforcing one's position within the church. Blood sacrifice is also not unknown and at Asmodean gatherings. Typically, the killing of a bull, goat, rooster, or other animal held as being particularly regal, virile, or benevolent. Humanoid sacrifices are not unheard of, but such are typically only required of groups that have fallen out of favor with the Prince of Darkness and who are performing a magical rite or have a member attempting to leave their fold. So the whole idea, again, and we'll get into this again later, but this is, again, the idea of chanting long phrases, tolling bells, and participating in and receiving public punishments and acts of submission and domination, again, goes back to the traditional acts and traditional devotions within Catholicism. Again, I'll get to that later, just how much of Asmodeus is tied to the Judeo-Christian idea of Satan and the devil, and which I find fascinating.
Okay, maybe one of you guys remembers. What is you mentioned public executions, and I read one of the Pathfinder Tales novels. Well, I've read most of them. But what is the spikes that they like throw condemned people onto in Shellyax? I think it might just be called the spikes. Maybe it's called the fangs. I don't know. Whatever. They've got these big spikes that they throw condemned people onto to execute them. And in other books, characters will give people like the spikes, and it's basically like flipping them the bird, but it's where you do like devil horns. You like put them under your chin, like that, and it's meant to be like you've been thrown onto the spikes. And I've always thought that was a really cool little bit of world building and lore.
Yeah, I have not read that one, so I would defer to Cori.
I also have not read that one, but I am asking my expert. So let me see if she has an answer.
I know the character that gives people that hand gesture multiple times is
tell Ellie I say hi.
Is the bodyguard from the
Radovan.
Radovan.
No, that's Kevin Costner, right? In Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
So I have read those, but it's been 10 years, so I don't remember. Because I did read all of the Varian and Radovan
and Varian Yagare or Jagar.
Yeah.
And
I read all of those, but it was 10 years ago when they first came out.
Right. But they describe the spike in the one that's about the what are the Cheliacs like?
Master of Devils, I think, is the name of the book.
Well, Master of Devils, yes, but this is from a different series.
Oh, okay.
Master of Devils is the one that takes place on job. But the
right, that's right.
But this one is the Hell Knights. Hell Knight is the one where they talk about the spikes. But yeah, briefly mentioned when Radovan does that hand gesture. Sorry, that was a fucking tangent. Anyway, I just like it. I like that there's a hand.
I have Hell Knight. It's right there. I haven't read that one yet.
It's good. It's really fun. There's like BDSM sex in it. It's good. It's one of the better written ones, I'd say. Because they definitely vary.
That's one of the reasons why I stopped reading the Terry Goodkind novels, is because it became all BDSM. And it's just like, dude, get over it.
Me.
Anyway, the fork?
The forks. That's it. The forks. And that's the gesture. Gives him the fork.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Just like, yeah. Hell yeah.
But thinking about public punishments that are done in Cheliax also brought to mind doghousing, which takes a prominent role in Hell's Rebels.
Hell's Rebels.
But I'm trying to remember the exactities of doghousing, but it involves vicious dogs, obviously, that are sicked on people. Let's see. But,
The event
you want
has a
more
30 by
on
30
dog... Oh. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
the event has a 30 by 30 foot wooden scaffolding platform with a doghouse built in the center. A prisoner is put in the center of the doghouse and forced to squat and avoid the nails and spikes poking in it. Essentially, it's a cheap version of an Iron Maiden, and one of those metal cages that you'll find in the movie Willow, where Mad Mardigan was found imprisoned.
Interesting.
Yep.
That's some fucked up shit.
But if you want to hear doghousing in practice, find the Pat's Hell's Rebels show is where I first heard the term.
One of the things I wanted to ask Cori is, I don't know if you had a chance to, and you might not have. Is there a depiction of an Asmodean temple in your temples book? Because they talk about it, that Asmodean temples and Cheliax are distinctly Gothic in aesthetic, and I was just curious if it's like traditional, like Notre Dame Gothic, you know, like how we think of, you know, Catholic cathedrals.
Sadly, Asmodeus is not one of the deities that has a temple in that book. The ones that are in that book are Zonkathon, Caden Kalian, Abadar, Pharasma, Sarenrae, and Calistria.
Okay.
I was reading about temples just today for Asmodeus, and of course in Cheliax, they like to make them big and ostentatious, and it makes another calling out that Asmodeus doesn't give a shit about that. But he recognizes that greed is a powerful force among mortals that makes them want to worship, or not worship, but like, again, bring order, show dominance, show power. So he's accepting of that, of a lot of ostentatious temples, just because it shows humans striving for more power than greed.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like the whole idea of like these giant, grandiose, massive cathedrals.
So what was Christian's motivation?
Or anybody.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know. How political are we allowed to get in this podcast?
We try to steer clear of politics, but
All right.
it's fine.
I was going to say fascism's bad, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Fuck fascists.
Fuck that.
But yeah, beyond that, I think we just have the priest roles and. Oh, no, so y'all have anything else about the shrines and the temples?
One thing I read is that in a lot of places, because worshiping Asmodeus is not seen as a great thing in a lot of places. You know, far be it for me to say that that's a good thing, but, you know, probably rightfully so. They are often small rooms, places where people can be in secret. You know, very much the devil worshippers that we see in pop culture all the time. You know, trying to be quiet about it, but working behind the scenes, enacting their machinations.
Yeah, everywhere that isn't Cheliax, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Although also Nidal and Isker.
Yeah. A lot more Zani K. So if Asmodeus dies, maybe Queen Abigail will be overthrown by Nidal, and all of Cheliax will worship Zan-Kutan. Won't that be fun?
Yay! As I'm waving a tiny flag.
Yeah, I find Asmodeus way more fun than Zan-Kutan.
Oh, I disagree there. I like Zani K a lot, but
Yeah,
I'm with David. I prefer Asmodeus.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I've watched the movie Saw. That's on. Well, more like I've watched the movie Hellraiser. That's on Catan. Okay, it was fun. But it's like, okay.
As far as priests go, and this is where one of the pins that I had put in earlier, they specifically call out that priests of Asmodeus are very, very careful in their exercising and pursuit of power, specifically because they understand that any overextension could leave them vulnerable to their underlings who might be watching for weakness. So this goes back to your point, David, about who really has power, because those in power are very, very conscious of how one might overexert themselves and leave themselves weak, and how those underneath them could very easily come up and snatch power away from them.
Yes.
Which I found really cool and really fascinating that the text specifically calls that out, and how even like playing a character who worships Asmodeus in a game like this, like being aware and consciously aware of this is very freeing almost.
Exactly.
You know, you don't have to be like I'm just some dumb power hungry guy. Like being able to actually like give you an excuse to be like, hey, I'm power hungry, and yeah, I'm making these and I'm willing to work with you, but it also gives me an excuse to, watch my six, which I think is super cool.
Not just that, it's along with what I was saying earlier about how he has bartered deals with almost all gods, is that you can play this evil character that worships Asmodeus and not feel like you've got to betray your party at every step, which I think is that what it feels like you have to do sometimes when you're playing an evil character.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't done it before, like, well, I'm evil, I steal from my party, or I stab you in the back, which Swanee has done. Actually, there was one campaign where at one point one of our teammates died, and we didn't know why, never knew why, but it was like Swanee had snuck off and stabbed in the back. Anyway, entirely different story.
I think you guys have told that story on the show at one point.
Yeah,
he made a comment like that.
It was but he did it in a good way. It was very fun. But yeah, you don't have to do that to play an evil character. Like, you can play an evil character that works with other people, just like Asmodeus does, and you don't have to, alienate yourself from your allies, because an Asmodeus follower wouldn't alienate himself from his allies. He keeps his, I believe the phrase I read from the deity's book said, keep your enemies crushingly closer.
Mm-hmm.
Both enemies crushingly closer.
Absolutely. But yeah, the fact that this hierarchy of priests, and they have a typical day begins with a prostrate prayer, a meal, and then reporting to your superiors to get your orders, or following extent orders if no superiors present. And those with underlings, you issue orders after receiving your own. And then evening prayers usually include a blood sacrifice, typically an animal or a slave's blood.
See, I generally save my prostate prayers for at night. Like, dear prostate, please let me get to this night without having to get up 5 times. Just want to sleep.
Prostrate.
Oh. Okay. I'm not that.
I'm gonna say it. This GM knows how to pronounce words.
I love you, Tyler. You never stop being you, Tyler.
I love you, Tyler, too. Sorry, bud.
Well, I mean, that could have also been a called shot at Rick from Find the Path.
True. You know what? I'm sure I've mispronounced some words. I guarantee you I have.
You spent this entire podcast saying Asmodeus.
That's how it is pronounced. It's Asmodeus. It's Asmodeus. Specifically, it is Asmodeus. I looked up the biblical terminology, the biblical pronunciation.
I've listened to the audiobooks. They pronounce it Asmodeus. And like they consult, like as somebody voice
Fair. Hold on. I can
Fair.
I can find an official Pathfinder source for this. Give me just 1 second, David.
Okay. I just always
I will concede that in Golarion it's probably Asmodeus. It is probably. I will concede that the Golarion pronunciation is probably Asmodeus.
I will not.
In the biblical pronunciation is Asmodeus because it is from a derivative of Asmodee, which is anyway.
Asmodeus.
From Pathfinder Chronicles campaign setting, published in 2007.
They didn't even know what they were doing in 2007.
In the pronunciation guide, Asmodeus is AZZMOH with the emphasis on MOH.
Asmo.
DEE
Asmodee.
US.
Asmodeus.
I'm gonna have to talk to Azzy about this one. He's gonna need to get these Bizo guys on contract. This is not to do.
Every so often, that book's pronunciation guide comes in handy.
This GM knows how to pronounce words. I will edit and post what I just said 30 seconds ago. No concessions were made. I laugh. But yeah, so again, here the adventurers, it's specifically speaking to what you were saying, David, worshippers are drawn to Asmodeus through any number of temptations, but usually in the end, it is you're trading service for power or wealth. So it's generally, I mean, that's what you want if you worship Asmodeus. But the fact that they specifically call out here in the text that even a few good-natured souls exist within the church. Many soldiers and martially minded types welcome Asmodeus' dogma of force and dominance. It's, the idea of power over the weak. I mean, you could see why a barbarian would be drawn to that. Minus the whole order thing.
Well, who feel weak themselves might be drawn to it because it makes them feel strong.
And I mean,
I'm trying so hard not to make real world analogies right now.
And I mean, thinking about it like this, we haven't talked about Asmodeus's pantheons yet.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah.
The big one he is a part of is the Order of the Godclaw. And, it is basically just going down that far left side of that 9-point grid that we no longer use and grabbing every deity off of that side. Because it's Abadar, Asmodeus, Iomede, Irori, and Toreg. So it's just the epitome of law. And, that is the primary pantheon of the Hell Knights. And the Hell Knights are not an evil organization. They are a lawful organization. And they tend to slide a little closer to the evil side of lawful, but they are predominantly wanting to just enforce the law.
What? Having a monopoly on power under the law makes you evil? What? No. Couldn't be.
And that's the only pantheon he's a part of, right?
I am double checking, but I think so.
That's the big one. Like, I remember when they first talked about, I was a little disappointed when they first came out with Gods and Magic. They were talking about, ooh, there's going to be pantheons. Pretty cool. There's like 3 of them. That was one of them.
There's a lot more.
There have been more that have been introduced in like the travel guide and other Lost Omens books, but yeah, that is the only one he is a part of. Just the Godclaw.
Oh, I just realized, Cori, that you have sent me 2 things. You sent me the picture of the forts, which is very cool, and you sent me the picture of how to pronounce Asmodeus. Thanks. Thanks.
I should just send you a link to the Discord, and then you could just be part of the Dubious Knowledge guest channel.
There you
and
go.
I can give you the role and the color.
Just them colors. Yes, I'd be happy to be a part of it.
But much like Asmodeus himself, we talked about how he is strikingly handsome and sharp, and
Are we losing Jason?
charming. His priests and those who follow him are just as impeccably clean and orderly, dressed to the nines, typically in black with red accents, but not always. They do dress. I mean, he's a lawful dude who has common sense. So it's like, wear clothing that's appropriate for your climate. He's not Lamashtu who's just going to wear just a bikini regardless of what time of year it is.
Yeah, a deity with fashy, not even undertones, overtones, with outfits that have a lot of black with red accents. I did not see that coming.
Does Lucan worship Asmodeus?
No, I thought about it, but no. Thank you for laughing. I appreciate it. It's a subtle joke, but it was there. No, Lucan worships Urgathoa, but it's just like an Easter and Christmas kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getcha.
Lip service.
I getcha. We should get Swanee to listen to our Urgathoa show.
Yeah, I haven't listened to that one. I'd like to.
Speaking of holidays, much like his relationship with the rest of his church, Asmodeus doesn't really care about holidays.
Puny mortality. Meh.
Mostly because he thinks that he should be worshipped equally every day.
As he should.
However, his church has recognized a couple of holidays, although the reference to them in Inner Sea Gods does not have names for the holidays. It just tells what they counter, because the way that Asmodeus's church has worked is specifically his followers take the holidays of good deities and go, nope, this is ours.
Of course.
Wait, hold on.
Yes, they are.
You're telling me that the Church of Asmodeus did exactly what the Catholic Church did? What? Another allusion to the Catholic Church? What?
Specifically, the 10th of Serenith, which he has, the Church of Asmodeus has reclaimed from Sarenrae, of course.
The Burning Blades. Yep.
Which, that is typically the Burning Blades Festival. In the 16th of Eridus, which they have reclaimed from Iamede, which is her Armas.
Which we'll talk about with, I believe Heath is going to be our Iamede guest.
I hate Iamede.
Uh-oh. Fighting words.
You moved me, David.
Sorry, I didn't mean. I am like if you take those fucking tests, like what alignment are you? I am such a chaotic good and Iomade is just so long.
And then the other one that gets called out is Leap Day, which today is where I learned that Leap Day is not during the month of Calistral on Golarion.
Gosh, I wouldn't know. I never remember associate with what real life months.
Well, Calistral is typically February, and does have 28 days in the Golarion calendar. But Leap Day is Eridus, which is August.
Gotcha.
So
What's March? What's
That
March?
I think that might be. Hold on. Yeah, that might be a mistake, because the wiki does have it as in Calistral as the 29th of Calistral.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know which one is which. Because it is not listed as Eridus. Because the 31st of Eridus is the last day of summer, which is a holiday for Serenray.
So you're telling me that he stole 2 holidays from Serenray?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Serenray did force him to acknowledge that he killed his brother.
There. If you could beat Eddie over countless eons, wouldn't you? That's very much Asmodeus's MO.
But yeah, we had mentioned it. We had mentioned it at the top too, that there's a couple of different sources that the Church of Asmodeus uses as for their order, but the official holy text, and I fucking love this, is the Asmodean monograph, which, when you break it down, it just really comes down to an over 1,000 page treatise on contracts. It breaks down to basically 1,000 page philosophical treatise, and it's an argument between 2 individuals. And it's just a philosophical argument on the nature of contracts, power, law, the fallacy of evil, propaganda, diplomacy, speech, hierarchy, and dozens of other topics related to rulership. And that is their holy text. Could anything be more Asmodean than a 1,000 treatise on this philosophical subject matter?
Yes. And that is a 1,000-page treatise that has hundreds of subtexts.
Yeah, that's just the
main book.
Yeah, that they have.
But there are hundreds of others that his priests will reference.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. That's
to support their arguments.
Then you pull from to do your reading. Asmodeus, you are the Lord.
I was hoping that that's exactly where you guys would go, because there are hundreds upon hundreds of supplemental appendices on this treatise. It is just, it's an academic nerd's wet dream. Like, it's,
and like it states in Inner Sea Gods that a conversation between 2 zealots often boils down to which pulls from the most obscure source to support their argument.
It
is literally that scene in Dogma. It is the bar scene in Dogma. How do you like them apples scene?
Did you I've seen it.
And also, being that he is the god of contracts and laws, he's also the god of knowing how to bend the law.
Mhm.
And it's stated in Inner Sea Gods that his worshippers might even perform egregious crimes against the church, but they'll be fine as long as they can find a loophole in one of the supplemental texts that supports their breaking of that part of the law, because they can argue that this is more important.
Oh, yeah, I'm biting my tongue. Oh,
Good. So good.
yep, I am biting my tongue, so.
This is why we play RPGs.
Right?
Look at the world, new lens.
It's great. The whole idea of Asmodeus is just utterly fascinating to me. But yeah, the beyond that, we've mentioned that he has many ethical differences, but despite all of these, he's been seen and been known to work with Shaylin, to help Nethys, to supply Gorum, to advise Iomade, and he, like, do all of this, though not all of them are willing to admit it, just because, you know, of what he represents. But
This is the truth.
what's that?
They can't admit the truth.
Right? But we talked about this, like, he's a charmer, and he will do what he says. Like, he is a man of his word. You just got to be really careful what you agree to and what's in that contract that you're signing. I mean, if you can best him in a fiddle contest, he'll give you a fiddle of gold. But yeah, here's the part too where I was going to lean more on you, Cori, because I'm not as familiar with the Dukes of Hell, and specifically the Whore Queens. I'm not familiar with the Whore Queens.
Well, they don't go by that anymore.
Okay. I could see why.
Yeah. That name went away at the end of first edition. They're now known as the Queens of Night.
Okay.
And I'll be 100% honest with you. The devil side of Book of the Damned is one that I haven't thoroughly read.
Okay.
Because
okay, you're more demon than devil. Okay.
I am much more a fan of demons than devils. For lawful characters, I prefer bright, shiny knights like Iomade. For my evil, I prefer the chaos end of the spectrum.
Okay.
With demon lords. So I'm not super well versed in the Dukes of Hell either.
Yeah, this is the area where I think Mike counterbalanced you, because I think he knows much more about the Dukes and the Archdukes and all of them.
Yeah, he tends to skew more to that side of a fan of that sort of evil in the setting, whereas I really like the chaos that demons bring.
But yeah, he as we kind of alluded to at the top of the show, Hell is very hierarchical and regimented, and so you can see that he has a cadre of dukes and tyrants that rule all the different layers of Hell. So the Queens of Night and the archdevils, who you'll and if you know your demonology and your ancient religious mythology, you'll recognize a lot of these names: Beelzebub, Barbados, Belial, Belial, Despater, Golarion, Mammon, Mephistopheles, Moloch.
Well, and Asmodeus created some of them even.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
all of them.
like these are all pulled from your Judeo-Christian mythology.
Yeah. And like some of them followed him from heaven to hell, others he created. Hell is a 9-ringed plane, which again harkens back to Christianity and specifically to Dante's Inferno.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the 9 planes of hell in Pathfinder are different than the 9 rings of hell in Dante's Inferno, but it's still that same structure of 9. And each one is rolled over by a different archdevil, except for Nessus, which we talked about earlier, which is where Asmodeus makes his actual home, and that's the deepest layer of hell.
Yeah,
Notably, unlike the devil in Dante's Inferno, Asmodeus isn't stuck in a block of ice for all eternity chewing on the 3 greatest traitors in the history of mankind.
I read that. It's in college. It's a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, the 9 circles of hell. But yeah, it's again, the hell is structured in 9 layers, just like the 9 circles. It's if you have to go down through hell, you got to go through each of the 9 layers, just like Virgil guided Dante down each of the 9 circles.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think they're structured after each of the sins. Like,
no, because sins are more of the demons' purview in Pathfinder's
right,
planar ecology, whereas devils are more about corruption and contractual agreements and, you know, taking advantage of mortal souls rather than trying to convince them to be sinful.
Yes, why try to convince them to be sinful when you can just recognize that they are sinful and play into that?
But but yeah, hell. When I was reading the depiction of hell that was here written in the text, it very much reminded me of the depiction of hell in Neil Gaiman's Sandman, with the forests hiding lakes and seas of poison, deep fissures splitting the land, the fissures emitting crimson light, roads paved with skulls, stuff like that. It's just it gave me that kind of iconography, sort of that Dave McKean type imagery, but also mixed with like a 1980s heavy metal magazine type vibe.
Yeah, definitely. Like hell is order personified, but it's still not a nice place to.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not as crazy and dangerous to you environmentally as the Abyss is, but it's still just as dangerous of a place.
Yeah, not something you just want to go strolling in.
Yeah.
I think hell would be perfectly nice to visit, as long as you're a friend of Asmodeus.
If you had a contract.
Yeah, you just gotta have a contract. My stay in hell will be pleasant and comfortable with all the amenities.
For the first week.
Now, where's one of those Queens of Night?
I'm not aware of this.
Which one do you want? Do you want the Lady of Pain? How about the Dowager of Illusions? Or the End of Innocence?
Is that Dolores, Isith, Mahathala, or Aradad Lily?
Dolores is the Lady of Pain. Ardad Lily is the End of Innocence. Mahathala is the Dowager of Illusions, and Elseth is the Aranis Queen. Her title is less fun than the others. But true to her title, she is just really an ascended Aranis. Yeah.
And we're getting to Mike's favorite part, and I'm sorry you're not here, bud. But we got the planar allies.
Yeah. So for planar allies, first and foremost, every single devil in existence.
Right.
Because hell is a hierarchy, so all of them report up to an archduke, and all of the archdukes report up to Asmodeus. So literally every devil in hell is one of his planar allies. But to name a few specific ones, there is Basilius, who is the Prince of Darkness's current herald. He appears as a handsome young male possessing blonde hair, perceived to be of the same species that of any creature that encounters him. Additionally, Basilius can freely take the form of a supernatural terror. This form differs from viewer to viewer, each faced with the greatest fear he or she can imagine. So, that's his herald. Notably, Asmodeus goes through heralds like you and I go through snack foods.
Really?
He has had many heralds over the aeons, and all of them find some way to displease Asmodeus at some point.
Yeah.
Until he gets to David, and then David will...
Exactly. I will be the greatest herald of all time.
Well, it's Basilius. Okay, in first edition, he was CR-15?
All of the heralds are CR-15.
Oh my gosh, he is a handsome man.
Yeah,
minus
right?
minus the wings, but still, even with the wings,
Yeah, his wings are a little off, but
they're a little small for his body. David, have you seen this? Should I send this to you?
Send it to me. Yeah, no, I'm not familiar.
He's a handsome-looking dude. Look at that. I just sent it.
Oh, yes. No, I did see that. Yes, I saw that from Intersea Gods.
Yeah,
Yep.
Look at him.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's one of his named planar allies. That's the big one. He also has Aro the Ashen Sun, which is a unique pit fiend. Pit fiends being probably not named that in about 4 months when we get Monster Core. Because that is an OGL name.
Oh,
I'm
true.
interested
yeah.
to see what they are renamed in Monster Core, because I can't imagine them going away. Pit Fiends are the highest challenge rating devil in Golarion. Just like Balors are the highest challenge rating demons. And both draw inspiration from the same source, the Balrog.
Dude, yeah, I'm with you, David. I love Pit Fiends, dude. Pit Fiends are awesome.
That's part of why I love it. They're very Balrog.
Yeah. Which is why I love Balors. But Arrow is a lean, jet black pit fiend. He is sullen and disinclined to converse, but ruthless in battle and is a strategic mastermind. He reports directly to Infernal Duke Iozeriel, the Untarnished Angel, and bears with him a deadly orb he calls the Ashen Sun, a foul relic similar to an orb of pure law that also has the ability to quench any flame and spread utter darkness. Those who offer Aro their tongue, the tongue of a freshly slain archpriest or goodly prince, gain +2 bonuses when they are dealing with him.
Excellent.
Well, Asmodeus is the Prince of Darkness. Certainly not the Prince of Silence.
And then the last named planar ally for Asmodeus is Fristax, who is a unique imp, which is the other side of the power spectrum from
I was about to
the
say.
Pit Fiend. Imps are the lowest ranking devils, and soon to be the lowest ranking of all fiends, because imps are taking over the role that Quasits have in demonkind as well when the monster core comes out. Bright Red Imp served more than 30 famed diabolists over his time, taking a role in some of the greatest diabolical incursions in history. He is quite clever and insightful despite often acting like a fool. He is skilled at suggesting brilliant and terrible machinations, and has a unique flavor in convincing his master that they are his own ideas that
Fun.
were not put into his head by the imp.
That's very Asmodean. I like that a lot.
Those who offer the imp rewards in the form of kingly accoutrements, crowns, scepters, orbs, and so on, appeal to his egotism and gain a +2 bonus on interactions with him. So, I like that 2 of Asmodeus's named allies give you ways to contractually get benefits when dealing with them. Like, here's how to appease this one and make it so that he is much more likely to listen to you.
David, when you played your Asmodean character,
Yes.
was it first edition or second?
That wasn't even. I guess it would have been first edition. Yeah.
Okay. Did you use the obediences?
No, I didn't get that too deep.
Because his obedience isn't
Something.
nearly as complicated as some of the ones we've gone through.
Yeah, his is one you could actually do as an adventurer.
Yeah, not like Lamashtu's, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, you can go over it if you have it right there too, Cori. Otherwise, I have it right here.
Go for it. I've been talking a lot.
Devoted followers of Asmodeus are granted special powers from a daily ritual whereby they use a knife with a ruby blade to draw blood from another, ideally unwilling, sentient creature. Use the blood to draw a pentagram on the ground, kneel within the pentagram, and focus on the glory they intend to bring to Asmodeus. So it is literally just use this special ruby knife
Yeah.
to draw blood and then prostrate yourself and meditate on the glory of Asmodeus. And it is not,
Actually,
find a newborn animal, sacrifice it on an altar, and then use its blood to whatever Lamashtu's was.
So the text I have in front of me actually extrapolates a little further on the ritual.
Okay.
So, first, the cuts that you make into the sacrifice, essentially, but you're not actually sacrificing them, have to be symmetrical cuts because of law.
Right.
Preferably an unwilling sentient being that you have dominion over.
Okay. So use the command spell.
Or
just have
other unsavory methods of ownership.
Yeah.
The blade may be solid ruby or forged of metal and edged with serrated ruby fragments.
Okay.
Devout priests take pride in crafting their own elaborate daggers made of entirely of ruby. And then when you drain the victim's blood, it specifies that you're supposed to drain the blood into a bowl of bone, made from the skull of a sentient humanoid.
Okay.
Okay. That's
Okay.
Which, you make one and you just carry it with you, right? Like, still a
Right.
fairly easy obedience to do as an adventurer.
This is my skull bowl.
The amount of blood drained is up to you. You do not have to drain enough to make the creature weak or too useless to serve you.
so not enough to make a drained one.
Right. And then draw a large pentagram with the blood, kneel within the pentagram and concentrate on the glory you will bring to the Prince of Darkness's name, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. No, so the character that I played, his name was Alzon. He was a tiefling, and my backstory for him was that he was a tiefling brought about by the blood of a pit fiend. And because I was too lazy to actually look up real lore, I made up my own. And I wrote like a verse from like the Asmodean disciplines, which was like supposed to be the Asmodeus Bible. And one of the lines was, of all the tieflings born to the mortal realms, those begot of a pit fiend are the most terrible. And that was like, and he had that verse tattooed on his chest, like 9/12/68, like it was a Bible verse.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's what I do. I'm too lazy to actually figure out real lore. I just make it up.
So that leads us right into divine intercessions, which are, obviously what happened when you make him happy or make him mad. So the minor boon of Asmodeus is he is pleased by your talent for manipulation, and he amplifies your skills. Once when you fail at a diplomacy check to make a significant or consequential request, you can cast suggestion on the target of your request, suggesting the same course of action.
Fantastic.
The moderate boon is your eyes glow red like embers, and your skin takes on a crimson tone. You gain dark vision and fire resistance 5. And then his major boon, Asmodeus helps enforce your bargains and contracts. When a creature enters a bargain or contract with you, uncoerced and of its own free will, it can't voluntarily violate its side of the bargain as long as you uphold your side. You can always choose to violate the bargain yourself, but if you do, the creature is no longer bound to fulfill its part.
That's neat.
And then, if you make him mad, his minor curse is that Asmodeus's flames burn you with great malice. You gain weakness 5 to fire, so the opposite of his moderate boon is his minor curse. His major curse is he forces your compliance. You can't voluntarily back out of an agreement or contract or go back on your word, though you need to follow through only the letter of the agreement, not the spirit. And then his major curse is he has taken note of the chaos you have wrought. You receive an ancient wound that feels older than time itself. You become permanently drained 4. And nothing short of another intercession can remove the condition. Your wound aches fiercely whenever you perform a particularly chaotic act, causing you to become sickened 1.
That's crazy.
Interesting. Permanently sickened 1.
Permanently drained 4.
I know. Yeah,
That's crazy.
That's nasty.
God, that's like a death sentence right there. That's brutal.
Hey, don't piss off Asmodeus.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I think we've got aphorisms left. Is that all we've got?
Yeah, and then we'll do spoiler corner if there is.
Yeah.
I don't think there is much spoiler corner, and then I'm gonna do.
It is, but I haven't read the things that are spoiler.
Yeah.
corner.
That's what
Like-
I mean. It's like I don't think there's gonna be a whole lot for us.
Like,
because-
obviously, Hell's Vengeance is huge on Asmodeus, but I've not read Hell's Vengeance, so I don't know.
Yeah, none of us three have.
No, I'm afraid not.
But I will also probably fill up some of that time with Jason's historical nerding out.
Should have got Ted here. Ted to run Hell's Vengeance.
Oh.
Dude, is he on right now? Can we just have him join super quick?
I'm checking.
Well, we wait for that. Asmodeus's aphorisms. Great is Asmodeus, which is just, proclaiming how great Asmodeus is, a declaration of support and praise, or a whispered sign of trust from one cultist to another in places where worship is less embraced than it is in Cheliax. And then we have...
Lend me your might.
Yes.
Asmodeus' power is great, but it is not freely given. There is always a price. Such an appellation is never spoken by a worshipper of Asmodeus without the willingness and readiness to offer something of great personal value in return, lest their cry indeed causes a devil to appear in a blast of smoke and brimstone.
And then there is the kingdom shall be his, or what once was his shall be again, which are both different aphorisms for the same purpose of Asmodean followers believe that he once had dominion over heaven, over all of the multiverse, and they believe that in the end he will once again have dominion over heaven and the whole of the multiverse.
We talked about earlier, like the return to power. Sort of.
Yeah.
And I guess
and the last one...
sorry.
Go ahead, David.
I guess Ted's group only made it to the first book, so he doesn't have a whole ton of knowledge on it.
Okay, fair enough.
And then the last one is... By his flames, a passionate cry for help and a request for divine intervention. The more devout followers of Asmodeus know all too well the danger of this request, for all contracts exact a price, and the cost of Asmodeus's favor is far higher when the petitioner is in dire need, and has no room for negotiation on their own side.
How sweet. It's just so delicious when you get people in those positions, right? And so says Asmodeus.
Not right. David, of course.
No, I'm chaotic good, remember.
Anything else before we wrap up here and move on to spoiler corner?
I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I think that about covers it.
All right, well, if you don't want to hear spoiler corner, where we're going to talk super high level about Council of Thieves and Hell's Vengeance and Hell's Rebels, none of us have ever...
We're not going to talk super high level because none of us have read those ones.
Yeah, I'm gonna like regurgitate what I have up on the wiki. So if you don't want to hear that, or me nerd out on history bullshit, you can just stop now, or right after we give you some of the outro here. So first thing, next month we are going to be talking about Robogog, the rough beast. Chaotic evil, well, no longer chaotic evil. They once were the chaotic evil god of destruction, disaster, and wrath. Robogog will be spoken about with a good friend of ours, Sam, from Pod Against the Machine. And we will be... I mean, what better way, honestly, what better way to kick off 2024 than having a huggable, friend-shaped Robogog conversation? I mean, really, come on. So yeah, hopefully you'll join us for that one. David, if our listeners want to hear more of you, where can they find you, sir?
Rules. They can check me out at MNmaxed, MNmaxed, we do an actual play. We're running Bloodlords right now. We've got a whole backlog of other stuff too. Knock yourselves out.
Yeah, and as we alluded to, they are a very rules-focused podcast. So if you're learning the Pathfinder 2nd Edition system, they're a great listen because they'll go over the rules. And even if they flub rules, they'll always go back and correct themselves on the rules they flubbed. So
Yes, particularly when people like Cori point them out in our Discord.
I don't do that nearly as often as Finder.
There's other people that are, hey, that's all right. Keeping us honest.
Yep. Yeah, great group of guys. And they're from Minnesota, where I'm from. So, I mean,
Only the
Oofta.
best state.
Oofta. Cori, yourself, where can folks find you?
They can find my writing at Comics Beat, Women Write About Comics, and SideQuest.zone. I will be having reviews for Player Core and GM Core going up sometime soon. They're in my editor's hands. I need to poke them and see where they're at. Hopefully by the time this releases, they'll be out. Those will be at SideQuest.zone. Otherwise, you can hear me here on Dubious Knowledge, or on the main feed whenever there's a goblin break as the wonderful GWOW.
And Besmara.
In Besmara, when a case is
when-
needed for a cold open.
Yeah, and you're here. You know who I am. So real quick, if you enjoyed this, please share it with a friend, share it with family, share it with anybody you think would get a kick out of it. That is the best way to get new listeners, and we always love new lore nerds, and new lore nerds are near and dear to our hearts. So please feel free to share this show. Join us on Discord. Join our Patreon. That's how we are able to keep the 25 North podcast and all these other side projects going, is through contributions from good folks like you. So if you're able to, check out our Patreon. And if you want, join our Discord. Cori and I actually have recently been nerding out about Doctor Who, getting ready for the 60th anniversary special. And we're probably going to be doing a whole Doctor Who watch along with all the new episodes coming out. So if you want to join us for that and really nerd out, check out our Discord. All right. And spoiler corner. So,
Spoilers, there are none.
there was apparently a bunch of Pathfinder Chronicles books. I'm seeing here one by F. Wesley Schneider called Book of the Damned Volume 1, a campaign setting book. Is that one you have, Cori?
Well, that one got collected into the hardcover.
Okay, that did get collected into the hardcover.
So that's where a lot of the history of Asmodeus came from, is from that. So
Okay.
It's not really where any more spoilery for happenings in Golarion than what is just history.
Right. So I know that so Council of Thieves, real quick, that's where the write-up for Asmodeus first showed up in Book 5, which came out in January 2010, called Mother of Flies. And that one came out because you were explaining it to me, that Council of Thieves was supposed to be the Chelish adventure, right?
That's what people thought it was going in, because it was set in Cheliax. They're like, we're gonna deal with the Thrune problem. And then it very much was not dealing with the Thrune problem. Clearly, the Thrune problem still exists in 2E, so it has not been dealt with.
Okay.
What do you mean dealt with? Are you saying that the Thrunes are a problem? Excuse me. Only extreme prosperity and order in Jellymax.
But it wound up being more small scale, local city, political intrigue type stuff. If I remember right, it only goes to level 13. And it also had problems of being the first adventure path for Pathfinder First Edition. So they were still hammering out the rules, kind of like Age of Ashes kind of has a reputation in Pathfinder Huey of not quite being exactly what is a great intro adventure, right?
Right.
So that's there was a lot of disappointment around Council of Thieves, and that's why going back to Cheliax and Hell's Rebels and Hell's Vengeance was all the sweeter, because that's where we finally got the adventures that we kind of thought we were going to be getting with Council of Thieves. And we got them from both sides of the spectrum, right? So you got the dealing with the throne problem portion of it in Hell's Rebels, where you actively fought against the throne, and spoiler, if you win, you make a new country called Ravenel that is split off from Cheliax and makes Cheliax sad because they lost another territory. And then you had Hell's Vengeance, where you took the opposite side of the coin, and you had a bunch of Maidens trying to reclaim Golarion, the capital of Cheliax, and you put them down like the dogs they are. There, I channeled your Asmodean flavor there.
Thank you. Which one ended up being canon? I don't remember.
Both.
Both are canon.
Both.
Okay.
Because Cheliax isn't gone. And if you lose Hell's Vengeance, that is the end game for that, is you overthrow the Thrones and reclaim Cheliax in the name of Iomedae. Or your enemies do. Whereas you're actively trying to prevent that. So yeah, so both are canon. Ravenel exists in 2E. That's the result of splitting off from Hell's Rebels. And Cheliax still exists, which is the result of the glorious reclamation getting put down by the adventuring party of Hell's Vengeance.
Yeah, because Malevolence starts off in Cantargo, and then you march on over to the old manor, which used to be a Chelish noble manor. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Maybe I should pick those up and just read them.
Yeah. I should at some point, too. As a
You
matter
might
of fact,
have every Adventure Path volume, and I plan to read them all eventually, but there's so much.
well, David, you do know what our plan is after we get done doing the gods, right?
No, what are you doing after the gods?
We're doing the APs, starting
Oh, God.
at the very beginning.
Oh, bring me on for Skull and Shackles. My favorite AP. Although it's probably everybody's favorite AP, so.
Which one?
Skull and Shackles. I've played through it and run it.
Well, we are looking for people that ran each one for when we do this, so that we can pull them on and have their thoughts on them. So,
Yeah, we'll get both
Okay.
you and Griff.
Dang. God, who would I play at that? What am I going to be like? Best Mara herself? I don't think I can get away with that.
no, that's me.
That's you. You've got to be Best Mara, Cori. Be the Hurricane King.
I'm dying over here.
Yeah,
I noticed. The other place that I know there's a tiny bit of Asmodean lore is there's a tiny bit of devil stuff in Curse of the Crimson Throne, but there's not a lot, and it's less Asmodean and more just contract devil stuff.
Okay, yeah, because I don't remember Asmodeus and Curse.
Not really him, but like anytime I see devils, I think of him because they all report to him.
The Lord of Devils.
Yeah, so that's really kind of all we got for.
Well, I love Asmodeus, like I've mentioned multiple times. I think he's one of the best evil gods to go with if you want to play an evil character in a normal campaign. We're doing Bloodlords where we're all evil and worshiping evil gods. But you're doing a normal good campaign.
Yeah.
Worshiping Asmodeus is a great way to go. Get some inspiration of how to play an evil character in a good campaign. And there's a lot more to be said about it than that, obviously. But
Are any of the Bloodlords characters, the Theater of Sin troop, worshiping Asmodeus?
no, it's all of it though, for the most part, except for Ted's character who worships Zuriel, which is one of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
Okay.
You heard about Zuriel?
Yeah,
Which is his catchphrase. It says on
that's his bit. Yeah.
his bit.
Anyway, I could go on and on about this, about Asmodeus and historical religion, but I don't want to bore too many folks with these details, and we're already over 2 hours long. If you want to know more, let me know. I've been thinking about doing like a one-on-one or a solo show, just because I have thoughts and too much time on my hands. I really don't, because I could do editing, but there's always editing, right, David?
There is always editing. I could do so much editing that I don't have time to do. If I ever need a job, I'd put out so much content.
Yeah, I got so much editing I could do, but I'll have all these ideas in my head. I'm just like, want to get them out. Anyway.
There's a line from a song. Now we're really going off track. There's a line for the song "Breathe," where it says something like 2 a.m. and I'm still awake writing this song. If I get it all down on paper, it's no longer inside of me, threatening the life it belongs to. And that lyric has always hit me so hard, because it's like, that's what having like art in your head is like, and things that you want to put out there, things you want to create. It's like, it's in your head and you just got to get it out. And if you don't, it'll kill you. So I always love that lyric, and I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But then it's like I'm struggling to get all this editing done, and I'm like, shit, I don't know if I'm going to reach my deadline. I always do, but I'm always like, am I going to get the deadline? Damn it, I don't know.
I spent the first 2 years of doing MNmaxed hitting the deadline every single time. I always had that episode up. Even if I was like, the power was out in where I lived, and I had to like drive to a gas station and do it in the parking lot where they had Wi-Fi, I did it. I'm so much more like that now. I was like, you know what? If there's a week where one doesn't get out, you'll get one next week.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for being so patient.
Adam from STF keeps telling me not to worry about it. And I'm just like, what? If I'm not going to hit my deadline, I'm not going to hit my deadline. Anyway, that's all I got. If you want to hear more and you want to talk more about references and how the Church of Asmodeus is very much like the Catholic Church, just message me and we could talk about it. I'll go on and on and on. Because that's what I studied in my undergrad, folks.
My favorite evil deity, I love Asmodeus. Always had a lot of fun with him. I hope he doesn't die.
He's not my favorite. We haven't done my favorite yet.
That must be Robocop then.
No.
This is one of the more obscure ones. Not one before.
He's one of the Ascended.
Oh,
Norgi.
Yeah.
Norgorber is
Norgi Burger.
I love Norgerber.
I wouldn't be
That
surprised.
terrible chain restaurant on Absalom.
Norgorber. Now that's got to be a thing.
Yeah. I love Norgerber. Got because he has 3 different versions of himself.
There's like so many like
He's got so many different names and aspects. It is very fun.
Yeah, but like it's interesting because each one of his aspects allows for different. Well, it used to allow for different alignments, which is so cool.
Oh, really? Neat.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah. Thank you two so much for having me on.